I never expected to be the joke at a business dinner. But that night, as I sat at the long table with my colleagues and the biggest client we'd ever had, I realized my boss had no intention of lifting me up. He planned to tear me down. Publicly. It all started with a project I led for 3 months straight. Long hours. Weekend work. My team trusted me, and honestly, we delivered. The client was thrilled during our last update, but my boss, he never mentioned my name. Not once. Still, I kept quiet. I believed results would speak louder. I thought professionalism would protect me. Primera, hahoa, is wrong. That Friday night, the company hosted a celebration dinner at one of the nicest restaurants in the city. Dim lights, white tablecloths, the kind of place where everyone speaks one volume lower. I was seated across from the client's CEO. My boss sat to my left. Glasses clinked. Small talk filled the air, but I could feel something was off. He wasn't himself. The client began praising the last campaign. "Whoever led that strategy nailed it," he said with a smile. Who was it? Before I could open my mouth, my boss laughed. "Oh, that," he said. "That was mostly my direction. You know how juniors get enthusiastic, but sloppy. I had to clean up quite a bit." I froze. The table went quiet for a second, then someone laughed awkwardly. I just sat there, blinking, holding my water glass. Keep going. "She means well," he said, gesturing toward me like I wasn't even there. "But honestly, she's not ready to lead anything yet. Needs a lot of hand-holding." My throat tightened. The client looked at me. I smiled not because I was okay, but because I had no idea what else to do. I wanted to leave, but I didn't. Instead, I sat there. Primera, listened, and I remembered everything, because something in me shifted that night. Not just the betrayal, not just the humiliation, but the realization, if he was willing to lie like that in front of a client, what had he been saying behind my back? After the dinner, I walked to my car slowly. My heels echoed against the concrete. I sat in silence for 20 minutes before driving home. That weekend, I didn't cry. Primera Resea reached every document, every email, every deliverable I had created for that campaign. I organized it all, with timestamps, drafts, feedback notes, everything. I even pulled the initial pitch deck, the one I designed solo. By Monday, I was ready, but I didn't go to HR. I went to the client, and that changed everything. On Monday morning, I walked into the office like I had every other day. Same elevator, same coffee, same polite greetings from people who probably had no idea what happened at the dinner. But I was different now. My boss barely looked at me. He was already in meetings, his usual important man mode in full swing. At 10 a.m., I sent the email. It was simply my client's name, following up on our conversation at the dinner, attaching documentation regarding campaign development and deliverables for transparency. Let me know if you'd like to discuss further. I attached everything, my slides, feedback emails, timestamped revisions, notes from internal reviews, all showing I led the entire campaign. No emotion, just facts. An hour later, I got a reply. "Thanks for sending. I'll be in touch." Nothing more. But 2 hours after that, the client requested a call with me, alone. I joined the Zoom, heart racing. The CEO appeared, smiling politely. "I had a feeling something wasn't right," he said. "Your boss was odd during dinner. And I've seen your work. I just needed confirmation." He leaned closer to the camera. "You have talent. Real talent. And I don't tolerate people who erase that." I sat there, stunned. He continued. "I'd like to make you an offer." My jaw nearly dropped. But before I could respond, he added, "Don't worry. I won't force your hand. But if you ever want to work with a team that sees you, not just uses you, my door is open." The call ended, My hands were shaking. I didn't know whether to scream, cry, or laugh. I just sat in silence for a while. A part of me wanted to quit right then, send an email, walk out, never look back. But another part of me wanted him to see it, my boss, to know he didn't break me. So I stayed. For now, that week, things were tense. My boss acted normal, like nothing happened. But I noticed how other managers started asking me direct questions. How I was pulled into 2 meetings I wasn't invited to before. One director even said, "We didn't know you handled that campaign almost solo. Great job." My boss looked confused when that happened. The shift had started, but I wasn't done yet. I updated my resume quietly, cleaned up my LinkedIn, took screenshots of all relevant emails, set up meetings outside the office. Because when someone tries to erase your work, you don't just defend it, you elevate it. And when I finally left that company, it wouldn't be silently. I was preparing my exit. But my boss, he was about to learn what happens when the person you humiliate becomes undeniable. The next 2 weeks were surreal. The client began requesting me directly for every update. No middleman, no project manager, no boss. Antatidenti. Go unnoticed. At first, my boss tried to brush it off. "Oh, they're just being thorough," he said in one meeting. But the more it happened, the more transparent the shift became. People started coming to me with questions he usually answered. Directors asked me to review presentations before they were sent. It was like the company had suddenly remembered I existed. Then came the internal review. It was routine. Supposedly. But HR invited me to a 101 and asked if I had any concerns about leadership behavior. I wasn't sure what to say until they mentioned the client had submitted a formal note. Apparently, the CEO had forwarded our email thread without telling me. He expressed concern over how someone with my role had been publicly dismissed during a professional event and asked whether this behavior reflected the company's culture. That was the crack in the wall. I told the truth, calmly. No drama. I explained what happened at dinner, what was side, and how I had handled it. The HR rep nodded quietly and thanked me. Days later, I was called into a meeting with the VP. He was kind, respectful. "We're sorry," he said. "Your contributions have not gone unnoticed, and certainly not unappreciated." That's when I knew the silence was breaking. But still, I wasn't done. I had a choice to make. Stay, now that the tables were turning, or go, while the spotlight was still warm. I chose the latter. I handed in my notice on a Tuesday. 2 weeks' notice. Professional. Cordial. My boss didn't say a word, but 2 days before my last day, he cornered me in the break room. "So, you really think you're better than this place now?" he asked, arms crossed. I didn't answer immediately. I just sipped my coffee, then looked at him and said, "No. I think I finally see my value." He scoffed, muttered something under his breath, and walked off. But karma wasn't done with him yet. A week after I left, the client pulled their next contract, a huge one. Quietly. No public statements. Just gone. I found out later that they offered it to the new firm I had just joined, the one the client's CEO introduced me to. Now, I lead strategy there. I have a team that listens. A boss who credits my ideas, and most importantly, I don't flinch every time someone mentions a company dinner. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud. It's being undeniable. It's leaving with your dignity. It's thriving where you were once dismissed. And now, every time I walk into a meeting, I walk in with my head high, because I remember who tried to erase me, and I remember that he failed. Just when I thought the story was over, something happened I couldn't have predicted. 3 months into my new job, I received a message. Not an email, but a handwritten letter. No return address. Just my name, written in an oddly familiar scrawl. Inside, a single sentence. "He's blaming you." That's all. I stared at the paper, heart racing. I knew immediately who he was. My old boss, The next day, I got a call from a former colleague, Marissa. Quiet, sharp, always kept to herself. She sounded nervous. I don't know if you heard, but he's telling people you sabotaged the client relationship, that you took files you shouldn't have. HR is reopening an investigation. My blood ran cold. I thought it was over. I thought professionalism had shielded me, but he was unraveling and trying to take me down with him. I contacted my lawyer. We gathered every document from my exit, my resignation email, the client's emails, even the project ownership logs from our shared drive. My new company's legal team backed me. They even offered to step in if needed. Still, it hurt. Not because I feared losing my job, but because someone who had already lost power was now trying to rewrite the past. I thought about staying quiet. But then I remembered the dinner, the smirk, the way he'd looked at me like I was nothing. So I made one phone call to HR. Not at my new job. At my old one. I asked for a formal interview to address the accusations. On record. On record. What I shared in that meeting was more than they expected. I brought receipts, screenshots, voicemails, a full timeline of events, even a Slack message from a teammate saying, he told me to leave your name off the doc so he could present it as his own. The HR rep was silent for a long time. Then she said something I'll never forget. You've just confirmed what several others were too afraid to say. It turns out, I wasn't the only one. Over the next few weeks, the dominoes began to fall, quietly but steadily. One by one, others came forward. Stories of gaslighting, credit stealing, unethical practices, manipulation. I watched from a distance. And then, one Friday afternoon, I got a message from Marissa again. He's out. Terminated. No severance. I didn't reply. I didn't celebrate. Instead, I went to the park, sat on a bench, and let the wind wash over me. Because what happened wasn't about revenge, it was about truth. Months later, I received a LinkedIn message from the client CEO. He'd heard the news. Glad to see justice served, he wrote. Let me know when you're ready for the next big thing. We're saving a seat. I smiled, because in the end, I didn't just survive a toxic boss. I exposed a system. I helped others speak. I took back my name, and I proved that your silence can be powerful, but your voice can be unstoppable.